Are we dealing with paid traitors that are being funded by the Communist Party of China to put out Chinese propaganda and CCP talking points, and at the same time denigrate the West? I'm talking about YouTubers who have been linked to the government of China. They've been linked at least to activities where they've been funded by the Chinese Communist Party, and they've also tried to hide that fact, spread a lot of disinformation surrounding the fact that they are being paid or have been paid to do specific things, fluff pieces really. And the same YouTubers parrot Chinese CCP propaganda on their channels and also attack the West. So should we take these two separate things and add them together and say that they are paid propaganda agents? Are we dealing with a case of William Joyce? For those of you who don't know who William Joyce is, he is the Nazi sympathizer, American-born British Nazi sympathizer who used to broadcast pro-Nazi propaganda through the radio.
Germany calling, Germany calling, Germany calling.
Eventually, after the war, he was caught and hung. But are we dealing with that kind of situation here, really? Well, in some ways, yes, but in a lot of ways, no. What we're going to do here is we're going to have an in-depth look at what's going on with this whole situation. I am the first YouTuber to make videos coming out of mainland China. So I've done and been approached by all the same people that these and all the same organizations that these people have. I have a lot of experience and inside information on how this all works. And of course, I have a very good understanding of the Chinese political system, the Chinese Communist Party. I can speak and read Chinese. So at the end of this day, I will have erased all doubts from your mind as to what's going on. There was an article released in the Times in the UK, and it was an article about British YouTubers who are being paid to fight China's propaganda war. It's actually a pretty good article, and to be honest, reading through it, it's fairly accurate. There are a few assumptions and misunderstandings from the author's perspective, but in general, it really does cover what these British YouTubers have been doing. We're going to go into that in depth later. But before we do that, I would like you to watch a small clip from an old buddy of mine, one of the original China vloggers, one of the OG guys from back in the day, Monkey Abroad.
In 2016, I created a series on YouTube called $20 Traveling, where I traveled to cities all over China and Southeast Asia and showed the audience how to get around with only $20 a day. And the money that I spent out of pocket to travel around producing this series was returned to me in about 6 months from the AdSense revenue I had made. But this is just the beginning. After months of traveling around Asia, I kind of got tired of that hectic schedule and I wanted something a little more stable. So I went to Shanghai and I landed a job working at a digital marketing agency there. Our clients were all Chinese companies or government bodies that wanted exposure overseas. And if you're familiar with digital marketing, you're probably aware of what's called influencer marketing. This is a relatively new and, if done correctly, highly subtle form of advertising, which is delivered to the viewer in a sort of camouflaged package. So it's really attractive for advertisers. So when I joined this marketing agency, I was joining basically as the resident influencer who could operate both from within the agency and independently as a third party. It was January of 2017 and our client was the Wuxi government. They wanted to promote tourism from overseas, and so I was tasked with going to Wuxi to produce a video for my own YouTube series. I was getting paid a full-time salary at the agency and also monetizing the content I produced on my own YouTube channel. It was like getting paid twice to produce content that I already enjoyed making. Then the projects kept coming in. Another client of ours, the Guiyang government, wanted foreign influencers, so they flew us down there to produce yet again another episode of $20 Traveling. And again, all the interests are aligned here. It really was great. I was getting paid salary to travel, but I was also monetizing the content I produced. And the Guiyang government was happy. And we negotiated again a contract to have us host an independent series to go on the Guilin government's Facebook page, all while I was able to produce my own independent content for YouTube. So I was getting paid to host their video while also producing content that I would later monetize on my own YouTube channel. Getting paid twice to travel. Then seriously, it was like floodgates opening up. The Shanghai Tourism Board even reached out to me and asked me how much money I wanted for them to follow me around with the camera and just film me eating top-notch food all around the city. It was a dream come true. After that, another client of the agency's, China Southern Airlines, was in the market for foreign influencers, so they sent a team of us down to Guangzhou to produce some video content there. It was my first time to Guangzhou, and I had a really great time. Then, a little while after that, the Chongqing government wanted foreign influencers to go down there, so a team of us went down there to produce an independent series promoting Chongqing. But at the same time, I made my own travel vlog, which I put on my YouTube and again monetized. So I was again paid twice to travel to a cool place and hang out with friends.
Now, Monkey Abroad is straightforward, in your face, tells you how it is. Hey, I got approached by the Chinese government to do these travel pieces to go and show how great it is. And, you know, I did it under the guise of my YouTube channel. I was paid by my ad revenue, and I was paid by these promotional activities from the Chinese government. He's straightforward, honest, no harm, no foul. And it's a very good insight into how it works, because I have been approached countless times by these same government organizations. Now, you have to understand that it's in the best interest of the various cities and provinces of China to boost tourism and to boost, well, basically put eyes on their province and all their specialties and all the, I don't know, the fancy things that that province is known for, like a certain type of dancing or singing or puppet shows or whatever it is. Because the more they can spread awareness about their province and the more they get put on the map, the more brownie points they earn from the main central government. So what they do is they try and co-opt famous stars, of course, around China. They get local celebrities and stuff to come out and basically promote the province and the various initiatives that they've got going on in the province, like their poverty alleviation efforts or their construction efforts or their factories or whatever it is. They find things to be promoted. Now, they find that if they use foreign YouTubers and foreign influencers, it doesn't matter if it's an Instagram influencer, if it's a blogger, it doesn't really matter. If they can get someone that's foreign, and that includes Taiwanese people, Hong Kongese people, Malaysian people, it doesn't matter. Anyone from outside of mainland China comes in and promotes these things, it has a lot more clout than a local person doing it. And that's simply because of their mindset in China. They're kind of let down a lot of the time by local homegrown politicians and things. There's a lot of corruption, bribery, lies involved, scandals revolving products. That's why they don't buy locally made milk powder anymore and empty the shelves everywhere else in the world. By milk powder, I mean baby formula. That kind of thing. There's a lack of trust. But if they see a foreigner says, wow, this is great, then they'll be like, hey, if a foreigner thinks that our local specialty or our local province or our local thing is great, then it must be great. So it adds a lot of weight behind the promotions that the local government is trying to do. And that's why they love to hire foreigners. That's why they have tried to invite me countless times to go to Sanya, the Hawaii of China, they keep saying. Go to Guilin to do, fancy things there, to go to Sichuan, Chongqing, you name it. I've been getting the invites over the years. I've always refused it. I made a video years ago where I interviewed a German influencer, an Instagram influencer, who was roped into one of these things, absolutely hated it, and actually escaped from this paid tour. If you want to watch it, there's a link. So how does this tie into our traitors who are working for the Chinese government? Well, it does in certain ways. First of all of these tour companies or these tourism boards, etc., are the government. It's not a private little company that works on the side, is like, hey, I'm going to promote my city. It doesn't work that way. It's a government initiative. The local government of whatever city or whatever province opens up a branch, a tourism branch, and they give it various different names. They all have different names, of course. But it is actually an arm of the government. How these tours work is very simple. Whoever they bring in, whichever foreign influencer from wherever it is, they pay for their flights. They pay for accommodation, usually in the best, nicest hotels, And the way it works is they get the hotels, of course, to sponsor this because it's free advertising for those hotels. They also take them to the best restaurants and give them spending money for whatever equipment and things that they might need when they're in this whichever area. So, you know, they need hats or gloves because they're going into a cold area. Of course, that gets paid for. So there is a lot of money and remuneration, you could say, going towards these foreign people from the government in order to go on these trips. Now, what happens on these trips is these vloggers, etc., are told, oh, you can film whatever you want. Sounds open-ended, sounds fairly okay, but bear in mind, you're being paid to do this. All your expenses are being paid. You're being flown around and guided around by government employees. So you'll feel obliged to be nice about whatever they do and take you to, even if it's something boring like, I don't know, vegetable growing or something. You'll still find a way to say, oh, this is nice, because you want to be good to your host, so you're obliged to do it. Secondly, every single place that you're taken to is a setup, it's a performance. I'm going to take the recent trip to Shanxi by this group of foreigners. They went to go and see various performances and, you know, children all dressed up in fancy clothes. They went to go and see, you know, a certain kind of specialty bread that's made. They went to go and see a farming initiative that farms vegetables. They went to go see the poverty alleviation things. And while you think, oh great, they can go film what they want, what you don't realize is that it's like a Potemkin village. They get sent on a bus to a specific place. Everyone is already waiting for them. There are banners in the background, so the photographers from local newspapers and the government can come and film them with the banners and the propaganda slogans and things like that. So, for instance, you arrive on a beach somewhere and you get this wonderful traditional performance by some children or by some performers of some kind. Of course, you're there on this beach. What can you film? You're going to film the performance. You're going to film what's going on there. That performance doesn't happen usually. That's something that's been put on specifically for them for the purposes of soft power and propaganda. That's why there are big signs in the background that say, foreign internet celebrities unlocking the happiness of Shanxi, or decoding the happiness. It's showing that these foreigners are coming to see all the happiness that's happening in this province. They're coming to see how diverse we are, how wonderful our local performances are, how amazing our local food is, how good our initiatives to grow vegetables are, how we've lifted people out of poverty. But every step of the way, it's a facade. It's a show. So from that point of view, they aren't actually filming whatever they like, because all that they have, the only option they have to film, are these set-up performances in these specific areas that they've been taken to. Of course, during this, a lot of government officials will be met. Here's a party secretary head for the area that was in charge of running this vegetable growing operation, for instance. It's all about meeting the local politicians. It's all about showing off the province, showing off the government initiatives, and showing just how successful the government is in its endeavors, whatever they may be. So we have this absolute proof that these different foreign YouTubers, and like I said, I've been invited on these things before. I know how it works. Monkey Abroad has told you how it works. We know that they're getting money, or at least getting reimbursed for going on these trips. Also, think about it. They wouldn't be able to just go by themselves to these different areas and see these performances anyway. It'd be kind of difficult because they're only set up for this particular propaganda effort. So in order to go and see something like this would be kind of difficult. They'd have to go and pay their own travel expenses. They'd have to go and seek this kind of thing out. And I'll explain to you why that's actually very difficult for them to do later. So let's move on. We've got the empirical proof. These guys are getting money from different government branches of the government to basically do government fluff piece propaganda. That's what it is. It's even stated on the websites that these events are organized by the local propaganda departments of whatever province or whatever city. It's there in black and white. It's undeniable. Now the second part is how strangely all of these different YouTubers' channels turned political, more or less at the same time. From normal travel and exploration type videos about what they feel about China and how amazing the scenery is and the food and all that kind of stuff. How it went from that all of a sudden to how bad the West is and how the West needs to learn from China. and how China is doing so well with the coronavirus thing, for instance, or how China does so well in controlling its populace, or how China does so well and how censorship is good for China, or, you know, how the Xinjiang camps aren't bad, they're actually a good thing.
They're having the extremist thoughts sort of, you know, rewired, let's say, to get rid of those extremist thoughts from them. They're also being taught to have skills, and so when they come out of these places, they can better integrate back into normal society. On top of this, the Chinese authorities are spending a lot on infrastructure and job creation. So when these young people come out of these camps, they see they have some sort of future for them, jobs, you know, training, so they can do new kinds of jobs.
How is it that all of a sudden these guys have gotten so political? It was never a thing before on their channels. So it begs the question, why are they suddenly parroting the Chinese government's talking points? I mean, the same thing that they're saying in their videos is the same thing you read in the Chinese newspapers. It's the same thing that you see on CCTV or CGTN on the news. You know, it's basically the government mouthpiece nonsense that's being spewed out there is exactly what they're saying in their videos. And why is it that they all seem to be attacking the West so much? Now, I think I have an explanation for this. A lot of people, including the Times, who wrote that article, believe that because they're being funded to do fluff pieces by the government, different organizations, that they're being paid to make these hit pieces against the West and these sort of praising immaculate China can do nothing wrong pieces about how the government handles things like Xinjiang, or how they praise Huawei and how bad Canada is to lock up Princess Meng or whatever. You know, it's all the same thing you can read in the Chinese news. So a publication like the Times, they kind of put two and two together and say, well, they're being paid for this, they must be being paid for that. I'm going to disagree. I don't think they're being paid to spew their anti-Western propaganda and to, you know, spew the pro-Chinese propaganda. No, I think they're incentivized to do that because their core audience are Chinese nationalists. They've all seen incredible growth recently on their channels. And it's been unnatural growth, as in very quick growth. I know it took me 5 or 6 years before my channel reached 1,000 subscribers. A lot of YouTubers out there know that it's normally a slog. To hit even 10,000 subscribers takes forever. It's a lot of investment, time and energy and so on. But all of these guys have leapt up very quickly all around the same time. And it's because they've got one single unified audience. What we're dealing with here is a coordinated Chinese nationalist audience. And they will support you no matter what, as long as you say positive things about China and negative things about the West. These are the guys that constantly attack me and other YouTubers out there, calling us Falun Gong cult members, calling us CIA operatives, calling us all sorts of ridiculous things, attacking our families, you know, mass flagging our videos, reporting us to the government and the local police and trying to get us shut down in the most cowardly of ways. It's the same core audience that is supporting these YouTubers that are spouting the Chinese communist rhetoric. So when you start to see such a positive response, and I'm talking about engagement and views, and you can look at their videos, the majority of the engagement is by the Chinese nationalist people, or perhaps by, you know, other sympathetic foreigners, tankies, that kind of thing. You start to see why they would be motivated to make these sorts of videos, because it's getting them the views, it's getting them the engagement. That's what every YouTuber wants, is to have positive engagement, is to see their channels grow, is to see their subscriber count grow, is to see their reach grow. And when you see it grow so fast and so quickly, all because of a certain type of video that you're making, of course, that's what you're going to follow. I get accused of the same thing. That's one of the things the nationalists say about me all the time, is that I realize that making videos blacking China, that's what they say, Hey Zhongguo, I realized it makes money, so that's why I do it. They fail to realize that when I do make controversial videos about China, they usually get demonetized, and my YouTube channel was successful before I even started doing that. That is not my goal here. It's not my driving force. My driving force is my own moral compass, My driving force is the fact that I want to help you, the audience, understand how China works, how the Chinese government works, and that's why I'm making this video. This is not a YouTuber versus YouTuber drama thing. I don't give two shits about someone saying positive things about the Chinese government, etc. They can do that. It's totally fine. And I'm not at all intimidated about other China YouTubers becoming successful. From the beginning, I've always wished that the Chinese YouTube community could have flourished more. I've always wanted there to be a lot of people out there making videos about China, exploring China, showing China for what it is. But unfortunately, either it's just not a popular topic or whatever, and because I'm the first guy to do it, and the most successful guy to do it, I'm often the target of people who for some reason think that I'm trying to be selfish and only want to be number one or something, so they go on the attack. It's a funny and strange situation. But no, it's not a YouTube drama thing. This is the Chinese government operating in a different way to push its soft power propaganda onto the world, but more importantly onto the local population of China. You see, to make YouTube videos in China is actually kind of against the law. YouTube is blocked. You need to use a VPN, which is something you're not supposed to do in China, to climb over their very sophisticated Great Firewall of China in order to post videos on YouTube. Why are they doing this? Surely they could just post it on the local Chinese websites. Well, I know why. First of all, it's complicated. If you're not Chinese, to post on those local streaming sites is very difficult. You need to have a Chinese relative or a Chinese friend to help you set it up and use their ID card and things like that. It's very complicated. Second of all, you don't actually get that much when it comes to ad revenue and things like that. So, you know, you can earn money, but it's very little. You have to have hundreds of thousands of views to get the same amount of money that you get from about 1,000 odd views on YouTube. And that's just because of the vast population difference, and it's very understandable. So it's not very attractive to put your stuff on the local streaming websites, although some people have found success in it. The other thing, of course, is that the Chinese government wants this information to be out on YouTube. That's why they have their own state-run media outlets on YouTube and Twitter and things like that, because although their citizens are banned from accessing these websites, they sure as hell aren't, because remember, in China, you're either government or you're little people. That's how it works.
But one thing that we have seen is he has sent messages to state-run media outlet people on Twitter, to CCP members, and that they've retweeted him and responded to him. You can see here Barrett making comments on an American politician's post. You can see him calling Secretary Pompeo a comedian. And you can see him joking about Pompeo having to find a new job. The joke's on you, Barrett, because you're not funny either. But the joke here isn't on Pompeo, it's on Barrett. And the reason for that is because you have the Chinese government exposing you. How so? Because people like Chen Weihua is directly messaging Barrett in public. Saying things like, oh, his account should be suspended too. As you can see, he's agreeing with Barrett about Pompeo and his account needing to be suspended. Why is that? Why would this person message Barrett and agree with him? That's right. But who is Chen Weihua? I wonder who it could be. Oh, that's right. It's the chief columnist for China Daily. China Daily. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? An English-language daily newspaper owned by the propaganda department of the Communist Party. Strange. Why would Barrett, a British person, living in China, constantly spewing anti-American propaganda, have direct contact with someone from state-run media from the Communist Party? Still not convinced? What about Barrett trying to undermine American freedoms and democracy by agreeing with Yu Xin by direct messages on Twitter? Again, state-run media. I'm sure all of you here will remember Liu Xin, whom of course is very famous for having a debate with Trish Reagan on Fox News. Again, what does Barrett do? He undermines American democracy and involves himself in our politics, a country which has he even ever been to? Probably not. Again, Barrett cheers her on. Wow, not holding back there. I'm sure they would like for you to believe that this is just some one-sided cheering and that, Barrett is just cheering them on. But yet you can clearly see on the CGTN website that CGTN company, of course, that Liu Xin works for, is posting Barrett's videos on their own website. Why would CGTN, a state-run media outlet, be posting Barrett on their website? Obviously, they're working together.
So they want this message going out there, not only to try and draw in foreign sympathizers or people try to dupe foreigners into thinking that what they're saying is the correct way, but more importantly, if local Chinese people do manage to get outside of the Great Firewall of China on the internet and they start looking up YouTube videos and things about China, if they come across these guys spouting the Communist Party propaganda, they will then reinforce what they think about China. They want that reinforcement to go back. So they want a local Chinese person to go outside the Great Firewall, watch a video about China, and there's a foreigner saying, what the Chinese government is doing is 100% correct, it's amazing, the West is bad. And they're like, wow, our government was right all along, But more importantly, they take these videos that these Westerners make, and then they take them from YouTube, they interview them and stuff, and they put them onto CGTN, CCTV, all the local big state-run media, in order to, once again, push this narrative and add credence to what the Chinese government is saying. I mean, it's just like when you're having an argument with someone. You've got a point of view, they don't agree with you. So what do? You call someone else in, maybe someone that person respects. So you call in your mother or something, or their teacher, or whatever it is, and say, he doesn't believe that XYZ is true. What do you think? So you get the teacher or something to say, yeah, no, he's right. And then they will believe you. Meanwhile, you've paid the teacher to say that. That's kind of what's going on here. Now, of course, there is a lot of speculation. We all know that the nationalists will go ahead and support anyone who supports China fervently. Whether they're talking nonsense or not doesn't matter. But of course, there's speculation that the Chinese government is paying for ad campaigns and things to boost the presence of these YouTubers on YouTube. I have no proof of that, so I'm not going to follow that. I really do think that they're just incentivized because they've realized what a positive reaction they get from their audiences if they spout this propaganda. So I don't believe, personally, that they are being paid to do this propaganda. They're being paid to do the government fluff pieces. So if you ever see a video on them about like, wow, look how China's housing so many people. Wow, China does a great job at controlling the coronavirus. Wow, China's farmlands are amazing. Wow, look at the infrastructure. That's all paid for. That's all nonsense. So you can just, understand where it's coming from. It's like when you're watching an advert on TV about whatever service. It fixes it in 2 seconds. If you call now, you can always take it with a pinch of salt. You know that people, an advertising agency is being paid to make that. So you can come to your own conclusions. I have a question. Why is it that these very pro-CCP, anti-Western YouTubers can't speak Chinese?
And although I don't speak a lot of Chinese, I've had some real fun times with Chinese people, and we both understand it. It's amazing how far body language and gestures can take you without even having to speak each other's language.
I'm not joking. This is true. They can't speak a lick of Chinese. The people we're looking at here specifically are people like the Barretts. They can't speak Chinese at all, which has been proven in their videos over and over again. The Jayo Nation, I know him personally. We've hung out. In fact, when his channel was very small, he sought me out as well as a lot of other YouTubers to try and grow his channel. That's his main goal, is to grow his channel. He's a nice guy. He met me in Shenzhen. I met him in Taiwan. I've met him in Vietnam. We've hung out a lot. We've spoken a lot. I know a lot about him. He knows a lot about me. And I know that he can't speak Chinese for shit. That's the truth. I know he's pretty good at memorizing one-liners here and there, but he actually can't speak Chinese well. And I'm not here to say that's a bad thing either. Whether or not someone pursues the learning of a language is entirely up to them. It's a personal choice. However, if you are living in a country like China where English is very few and far between, unless you live in some big first-tier city, you kind of need to know Chinese to get around, so it's kind of bizarre that these guys haven't learned just even the basics, other than like ni hao and, you know, I need a beer or whatever it is. It kind of boggles the mind a little bit. But here's the fun part. There are other YouTubers, by the way. I'm not here to expose all the YouTubers that are doing this, because there's quite a few of them these days that are doing the exact same thing. I'm using these two bigger ones as an example simply because I personally know the Jayo Nation and I know exactly what the Barretts are doing, and I'll get into that soon. Here's the weird thing though. YouTubers and people who can speak Chinese very well, especially fluently, like Lao Lei.
Hello, 我是老雷。
The German guy with a beard. His Chinese is incredible, and he's done some incredible journeys through China. This guy is very well experienced. He's made videos critical of me. I accept it. I can accept criticism. But one thing you'll find about him through his videos, if you can understand Chinese anyway, because he only speaks in Chinese, the guy's like a genius when it comes to this.
用英语学他的口音啊，学他的一些口头禅，去吐槽一些其他人在 YouTube 上面分享的做饭的那种视频，就使劲吐槽说：“哎呀，你这个厨艺根本不及格。”
Is that he doesn't support the CCP. He constantly criticizes the policies of the CCP. He doesn't say they're all bad, but he does criticize the policies. He doesn't live in China right now, of course, but he does go out and criticize the CCP. Lola Farley, a fantastic comedian from California who used to be a superstar on Chinese TV and used to be part of the New Year's Gala. Again, another genius when it comes to the Chinese language.
习主席，你没事吧？你觉得呢？操，失眠都1个礼拜了。哦，那你看看，需不需要我给你找几个根儿长得好的妹子呢？没用，早就玩腻了。你愣着干嘛呢？你有什么事儿赶紧说说。哦，对，外边传来了一个新的消息，那些西方发达国家要开发自己的5G 技术。哦不，美国政府不再认为香港还是个高度自治的状态，是吧？哦，不是，美国老百姓对中国的好感度下跌到新历史记录，这个我能不知道吗？你这习主席，美国彻底暴乱了，真的吗？太好了。
His ability to speak Chinese is second to none. And I highly recommend that you go check out his channels, because his channel, he does put English subtitles in his videos. He is highly critical of the CCP. Why is it that these people who have benefited from or made such a huge investment of their lives to learn a language like that so fluently, why is it that they're not running around praising the CCP? But the guys who can't speak a lick of Chinese, why is it that they are running around praising the CCP? Well, it's very simple. I will explain it to you in form of an analogy. What if you took a Belgian man, and you dropped him in the middle of a Spanish festival? Colors, lights, music, dancing. And you throw him right in the middle. The guy cannot speak Spanish. He's got no idea where this festival comes from or what it's about. And you throw him in the midst of that. He can't speak the language. He can't read the signs. There he is in this festival, and you ask him about this Spanish festival. What can he say? Wow, the music is so good. I love the colors and the movements of the dancers. I love the clothing, the style, the smells, the sights. They're amazing. You ask him, do you know where this Spanish festival originates? What's it all about? He can look around and he can say, I'm guessing it has something to do with pumpkins, because I see a lot of pumpkins around me. That's about as far as you can go. Unless the guy could speak Spanish and actually ask people, read the signs, read the newspapers, he wouldn't really know, because it could very well be the festival of the dead. And the reason people are dancing is to celebrate death. But he doesn't know that, right? It's one of those things. How is it that you can claim to know anything about a culture and a country if you cannot speak the language? Especially when you don't have transparent news coming out of said country that's translated into your language. These guys just get all their news from the, Chinese media that's translated into English and swallow it up and say that's how it is. And they get all the news media coming out of the West and swallow it up and say that's how it is. The more ignorant you are about what's going on around you, the better it is. I remember this. I was in their position. Walking around in China, you live in a bubble. You make your own mind up about why people are doing things. You see a man there smiling and you think, look, that man is smiling. That means that all Chinese people are happy and that things are going well, because I see plenty of people smiling. But you don't know how deep it goes. You don't know what that man has really suffered or the kind of lifestyle that he has to endure. Just because someone is smiling doesn't mean that things are all peachy. So I went through that phase of life living in China where I was like, what the hell is the West talking about? China's incredible. Everyone's free. It's such a free lifestyle. And I maintained that point of view for many years living in China because I was having the time of my life. I was 25 when I got to China. So, the girls, the booze, the partying, the freedom of walking around as you want, having late night barbecue, just having the time of my life as if I was living as a 20-year-old or a 20-something-year-old, which is what I was doing. It was only later when I studied and learned Chinese that I started to see what was really going on around me. Now, bear in mind, I did study Chinese in the Shenzhen University. I graduated from intermediate Chinese, top of my class with, well, I couldn't say top of my class, but up there. I got the award of best student or whatever. They give you this red book. Here's a picture of me in the newspaper actually receiving that award. I did, of course, beginner's Chinese and then intermediate Chinese. It ended up being about a year and a half that I was studying in the university to get this full time. So I did my due diligence. I did my studies. I did graduate from the language course. I cut it off at intermediate. I didn't go into advanced because work got in the way. I was busy with too many things. It was taking up too much of my time. And I kind of reached a point where I was comfortable enough to know what was going on because I could finally read all the signs and, figure out what was going on, have all the normal daily conversations that I would have to have with anyone. And it was a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed my time in the university. In fact, I think they've still got my picture on all the flyers and stuff from when I was there. It was a lot of fun. And I met some amazing people, especially my Chinese teachers, who I have a lot of gratitude towards for, their patience and understanding. And of course, the fact that they were able to teach me and a bunch of other foreigners such a difficult language. But it was from that point onwards that I started to see exactly what was going on. So the language thing really does play a huge role in this whole whether or not you can actually understand what China is all about thing. Now it's time to go into this in a little bit more depth. I want to talk about the deception and misinformation. Again, I'm going to point back to the monkey abroad clip. The fact that he was open about it excuses him 100% in my point of view, morally. I think it's kind of sucky that he was duping his audience to think he was doing his $20 a day thing as his own initiative when he was actually being paid to go and do this by the government, the Chinese government. But, that is what it is. The fact is, he had a great time. He went traveling. He had the time of his life. And, I wish I was as handsome, tall and dark and handsome as he was, because I'm sure wherever he goes, he just has an amazing time. Anyway, I like the fact that he was honest about it, but these new China promoters are not being honest about it. And I'm going to use my friend Jayo Nation as an example, and actually a very good example of the Streisand effect. Now, my friend, the Jayo Nation, Matt, had been doing travel vlogs for a very long time. He'd been trying desperately to get his channel to grow, and it wasn't really growing. He's met up with some big vloggers. He's been around the world. He's been to some of the most interesting places in the world. But for whatever reason, his channel just wasn't growing much, at least not to his expectations. And he pretty much dedicated his life full time to this because he's in the position that he can do that. With his Chinese family being extremely wealthy and so on. So that's what he was doing. Now, I'm not sure if you remember that, but not that far back in the past, China was experiencing some heavy flooding. And the Three Gorges Dam was under immense stress. In fact, people were expecting that it would actually burst. And so what the government had to do is open the sluice gates to release the pressure and just release immense amounts of water downstream, which displaced so many people, it's not even funny. It will boggle your mind. More people than live in your country, most probably. What happened was a lot of people's houses and property and crops and everything were destroyed. It was a terrible time. It was like a horrible natural disaster, okay? We're talking about a lot of despair, a lot of people in dire straits, whole cities and towns underwater. And while this was going on, my friend Matt put out a tweet and Instagram post and whatever of, you know, selfies and stuff. Oh, look how amazing the Three Gorges scenery area is, which is upstream from the Three Gorges Dam, of course. It's quite a distance, but it's just upstream. It's the Three Gorges scenery spot. It's the Three Gorges Dam. So this is in Chongqing, of course. And he's going on about how amazing it is. And, you know, I've just thought this was incredibly insensitive. The timing was very insensitive. While you've got people suffering like immense loss and terrible things happening downstream and deaths and things like that, he's out there doing a government fluff piece saying how amazing it is. And, oh yeah, we're going to go visit the Three Gorges Dam and things like that. And it infuriated me because of the insensitivity of the timing. I normally wouldn't have taken notice of something like that because I know he loves to do these travel things and go around and whatever. And whether or not he's being paid by the government, not really any of my business, right? But this tweet infuriated me because it wasn't just him. It was a whole group of these pro, you could call them pro-CCP vloggers, I guess. The pro-China crowd. And that's what they labeled themselves anyway. So on our podcast, our ADV podcast, we talked about this and I was upset. And so I said things about this tweet and about these guys that I don't regret. It's things that I absolutely feel that these guys are out there doing what we term as expats. Doesn't matter what color you are. We term them as white monkey jobs.
I am Richard from England, European General Agent of the Ginger Boss. I am a very demanding person for food, and I chose junk because of the high standards and high quality of junk's products.
It's when a white face is used to add credence to whatever it is. And it's a very common thing for the Chinese government to divert attention away from drama and natural disaster and stuff by blasting out something positive about, like, look how amazing the travel is and so on. So the timing was just too coincidental. But I censored the tweets. I did not mention his name. I did not mention his channel name. I edited the video so that you couldn't see it was him. Fair play, right? I'm angry about something. I don't want to throw my friend under the bus. I don't expose him. I expose tweets and just get it out of my system by saying this is immoral, what these guys are doing. So what does our friend Mr. Jayo do? Rather than just, you know, leave it be and accept it for what it is, he feels that his ego has been dented and releases a video. SerpentZA, Lao 86, lies, deceits exposed, something along those lines. Makes a big hoo-ha about this. Outs himself as the person in the tweets. That's on you, mate. Okay? I did not share your name, and I did not share your channel name or anything. And you could say that some people might have recognized who you were. It was such a small amount of people. So you brought it upon yourself. So you put that out there. And his video is full of the most absolute nonsense I've ever heard in my life. First of all, it proves that either my language barrier thing is 100% true and that these guys are incredibly naive and stupid, right? Or that they are maliciously trying to distance themselves from the government, actually on purpose trying to mislead people to thinking that they're not working with the government. Because what does he open up with? Oh, there's a poor lady. This is going to be such a Debbie Downer. I hope you don't see this. This poor girl who's passionate about her city opened a travel agency. And she loves her city and invited us over, some nonsense like this. And makes it out as if I've somehow slandered some poor girl who works somewhere. She is a government employee. Okay, that's who she is. And she's one of many people who work for iChongqing. As we can see, since lots of people I know have been on these iChongqing things, and iChongqing, by the way, is the government organization, the tour organization that paid for these guys to go around and do all the things in Chongqing. So he tries to make me look bad and say I was lying about that. Of course, I was a little bit dumbfounded that he didn't know that this was government that he was dealing with. I mean, you have to be super seriously naive and not understand how the Chinese government or how China works if you think you're going to be flown around and, well, taken around to all these different things in a province or a city or whatever on the dime of something and you think it's not the government, it's bizarre. Of course, I'm not the only one who took exception to this. Chinese people took exception to this too. In fact, Uncle Mikey, China Uncle Mikey, made a video where he was like, why would the Jiao Nation lie about this? Here's links to the government articles about how iChongqing was opened as a promotional branch of the government. You know, I'm going to put that in here for you to see.
So, the source of the article is from Hualong Wang, Chongqing Chenbao. Chongqing Chenbao, literally in English, is Chongqing Morning, a local newspaper. The title of the article is 重庆海外传播平台爱重庆正式上线, literally means Chongqing official overseas promotion platform iChongqing formally online. So let's have a look at the first paragraph. 重庆市人民政府新闻办公室、重庆市人民政府外事侨务办公室、重庆市旅游发展委员会在纽约联合国总部举办2018山水之城重庆文化旅游推介会，重庆市官方海外宣传平台爱重庆正式上线。So the translation is Chongqing City People's Government News Office, Chongqing City People's Government Foreign Affairs Office, Chongqing Tourism Development Community in the UN headquarters in New York addressed the Chongqing Travel Promotion Conference and the Chongqing official overseas promotion platform iChongqing officially online. So here's another paragraph. 美国东部时间30日晚，纽约联合国总部宴会厅，100余位海外媒体和嘉宾共同见证了重庆官方海外传播平台爱重庆的上线发布。So the translation is Eastern New York time, UN headquarters in New York. Hundreds of overseas medias and VIPs witnessed the Chongqing official overseas promotion platform iChongqing published online.
So after we go through this article, we probably very clearly understand iChongqing is the platform of our government.
Catherine is the owner of iChongqing. Hi, Catherine. Hope you don't have to watch this. This is kind of a Debbie Downer video. So Catherine, she loves Chongqing. She's born and raised. She knows a lot about it. She's not government employee. She's just a citizen who really, really likes Chongqing.
Eastern New York time, UN headquarters in New York. Hundreds of overseas medias and VIPs witnessed the Chongqing official overseas promotion platform iChongqing published online.
So after we go through this article, we probably very clearly understand iChongqing is the platform of our government.
He then goes on to say that the email that we showed, because we showed an email that had been sent to us. Open cards, it wasn't sent to us personally, it was sent to someone that we knew and they shared it with us. I have no reason not to trust that person. And I mean, it's been vindicated anyway. The fact of the matter is the email that was sent to that person inviting them to go to Chongqing to do these travel, fluff pieces and things, it really is a government organization offering foreigners to go around Chongqing and do these things. So the email, as far as I'm concerned, is 100% legitimate simply because what the email states is what they ended up doing, which is working for the government going around. So that was that video. Whatever. So, as usual, I'm used to getting attacks. If you search SerpentZA exposed, there are lots of videos you can go and watch. It's actually quite interesting. I don't reply to them because I know what it's like. This is the first time I'm actually calling out another YouTuber in a video, by the way. I hope you guys can recognize that over all the years, 13 years now, I've been making YouTube videos. I've not gone out and attacked other YouTubers, even though they constantly attack me, especially the smaller China guys. Jiao has, the Barretts have, all of the other China YouTubers have in some form or the other called me out, made videos about me, etc. And it is what it is. It sucks. It ends up sending a lot of hate my way, especially from the nationalist audience, death threats, things like that. But I just let it lie because I like to think that I'm better than that. Anyway, next they went from iChongqing and they did this whole Chongqing thing for ages. And I like to think that the video that we made about them being all positive while this flooding thing happens kind of helped spark their conscience a little, because after that had come out, they started to make videos talking about the floods in Chongqing, etc. So I hope, I at least think there's a little bit of positive that came out of that. Moving on, they did a thing for CRI. Now I want to explain to you guys what this is all about. CRI, China Radio International. They actually came down to Shenzhen to interview me when they were doing their foreigners, or it was actually a South African initiative because they were working together with the Chinese government and the South African government. They did a, foreigners living in China type thing where they went around the country, filmed what we did. It's the channel intro on my channel. You can go and watch it. It was filmed by CRI. And they're a massive state media organization. They're very high up, completely communist government run. So CRI made one of these propaganda kind of tour things. And let me explain how it worked. It wasn't just CRI. It was CRI in conjunction with the provincial level propaganda department, which is, of course, all there in black and white on the internet for you to see on the Chinese internet. And they came up with this Foreign Internet Celebrities Unlock the Happiness of Shanxi initiative. And how it worked was CRI organized all the people to come, filmed all this stuff. They had their CRI minders who were there to be translators for these guys because they can't speak Chinese. Take them around, show them around, take them to all these different events, which were all set up. They had to go and do speeches, endorse products they'd never heard of, go and stand in front of banners and take photos with random people, random party members and things like that.
We stayed in hotels and we ate in restaurants. We mixed with government officials throughout the previous 4 days. Well, yeah, I think, we went to this sort of government thing. I think there was meant to be a trip to the wall, which didn't happen. That was on the first evening, wasn't it? But we got back so late, I think, that it was decided we were going to can that because we were all so tired. We'd literally been out since 7 o'clock in the morning on the road. We'd been bussed to a few different locations. But I think it wasn't until the second day they started talking about cutting the trip short by a day. And taking Huashan off, but there was no real reason given for that. I don't think. I don't remember a reason given for that. Does anybody else?
They had to fit in more propaganda visits.
Yeah, but they didn't say that, did they? But that's what happened. Yeah.
This is sort of what we were looking at when we were traveling around. We were being photographed constantly and documented. Exactly. And even to the extent to where we were trying to make our videos and people were pulling at our shoulders and saying, no, we're finished. We need to go. And then there was this strange experience with the vegetable king. But the speech that they gave me was, "Hi, my name is Matt. I am 40 years old. I love the culture of Weinan, and the people here are very nice." And it was a bunch of technical terms. I was literally speaking I hadn't even seen the city yet. so they were asking me
the night before.
Yeah, they were asking me to say things that I hadn't even been able to. I said, "Listen, I'm not going to read this for you. This is not. If you want to take us around the city or the village, and then you want to put me up on stage and ask me what I think, then of course I can do that."
Yeah, and what they also did after that speech, they got a number of sort of products and businesses there, and it was like, "Oh, just hold this and say that you endorse this product," kind of thing, and they got Ollie doing a few of these where they wanted to sort of endorse products that we'd literally seen 5 minutes ago and didn't know nothing about. And that's not to say those products were bad in any way, but we just didn't really know anything about them. So it was a bit of a stretch, really.
Yeah, we are pretty new in this, so we got to do lots of those,
like memorizing Chinese phrases. For you remember, like the stone bread, they had me there like for 15 minutes trying to memorize a Chinese word.
And at that point in time, I still thought we were there for us, but we were really there for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it took some time to understand that, because it was shocking. I've done many of these trips, and most of the time they're much more balanced than this.
And go to all these different things. So you can see, you just go to their channels and they're like, "Oh, look, Chinese puppets are amazing," or "Chinese this is amazing," or "These children are so friendly and they're not oppressed." Of course, you're going to these set up events where they get all these kids together that are there laughing and smiling for you to film and for you to take photos with and stuff and spread out on your social media and to Chinese media. You know, it is a big propaganda effort. And one of the big things was this thing that the government always pushes is the alleviation of poverty. And in fact, their own words.
Why were we there in the first place?
We went to a trip to Shanxi, sponsored by CRI, which is China Radio International, which is a radio station.
So yes, we were sponsored by the CRI. But what do I mean with sponsored? Did we get money? Okay, here we go. They invited us on a trip to Shanxi. What for? To promote the province of Shanxi, because in Shanxi there seems to be a lot of places that Chinese government has lifted out of poverty.
I want to tell you guys first off that I've got nothing against the Mexican couple. This was their first trip. They got roped into it. They're naive and they're just, you know, they went along for the ride. They thought it was fun, and they're not nefarious in any way. So I just want you to know I've got nothing against these guys. It's the guys like Jayo and Barrett who are actively trying their absolute best to lie about their connections to the Chinese government that I have a problem with. So they did this whole big thing. And of course, the highlight for me was the vegetable dance. I made a video about it. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. They got taken to another government initiative. And this government initiative, you can read about it and you can see all the same faces in it if you read about it before they came there. This is highly publicized around the Chinese internet and around Chinese media, has been for years. But they were taken there to be shown this amazing initiative about growing all these vegetables in greenhouses and how successful it is and how amazing the vegetables are. And then they all ended up dancing around with vegetables. It's a spectacle. I call it Vegetable Gate. Anyway, so I made a kind of a mocking video about it because I'd had enough. This white monkey propaganda nonsense that these guys are taking part in is very misleading, and it is comical, and it does deserve a little bit of ridicule, because if you're going to allow yourself to stoop so low as to go around and dance with vegetables and try to claim that you're some kind of expert on what's going on in China, whereas you don't even know what the hell goes on are you a horticulturalist? You're not any kind of specialist when it comes to vegetable growing or infrastructure or anything, but all of a sudden you're the expert face that's being shown to the Chinese public and the rest of the world as some kind of like expert that knows about this stuff. So that's why it's so incredibly important for you to be there on site to see the vegetable growing, you know, that kind of thing. It's disingenuous and it's nonsense. So I made that video just because it was hilarious. Again, I didn't call out any specific name or any specific channel, but this time I didn't edit out the names because why bother? You know, I've already been called out and they've made these SerpentZA lies videos, and it wasn't just Jayo Nation. Barrett channel made a SerpentZA lies video against me as well. So I put it out there because I want people to see what's going on. And immediately, of course, my friend Matt Jayo, his ego gets dented again, and it's all about him. So what does he do? He goes and makes not one or two, but 3 videos trying to defend the fact that he went to do this vegetable dancing.
I really don't like to make these types of videos. I really hate that I even have to make this video. The last episode I recorded of my travel vlog was me meeting an interesting guy who is promoting the successful agriculture in his city. Now, the truth of the matter was that we walked through the village area and we came upon this fellow who was doing TikTok videos. If you hadn't seen the video, please watch it. It was very entertaining and interesting visit. In fact, the gentleman that I met was about my dad's age. I could see a lot of enthusiasm in a man that was, you know, getting towards retirement age. This guy was open to new technologies. He was excited about what his village was known for. And instead of putting him down, I wanted to do anything to lift this guy up.
First of all, I know he doesn't care about this stuff. I don't think anyone cares about people growing vegetables in a greenhouse. You can say, yeah, that's interesting, and I'm glad they're doing it. It's a good thing. But I don't think anyone has an intense, I don't know, interest in these things, so much so that you would go into so much of a defensive mode as he did, going on about why they were there. But then again, the lies come out and the misinformation comes out, which again either proves him to be incredibly naive or willfully misleading. He's like, this was a spontaneous thing. So I was doing some correspondence with him, either in his comment section or on Twitter, it doesn't matter. And I said, no, the trip to Herzwen, which is where this happened, is on the itinerary, because you can actually read the itinerary of where they went and the things they did on the Chinese internet, because it was a propaganda effort. It's there in black and white. So it's like, yeah, sure, that was part of the trip. But meeting this old farmer, this villager, it was spontaneous. This random guy came up to us and he was like, hey, I do live streaming too. And he goes on to say about how proud he is of this old man for, you know, doing so much for his village and stuff. That's not some random spontaneous encounter, which I said to him. I told him that guy is government. He is the party head for that area. And he is. He's the Communist Party secretary for that area. He's the reason you guys went there in the first place. The smoking gun, of course, is all of you standing holding vegetables up with the Communist Party head in front of a big propaganda banner about what you guys are doing. Foreign celebrities unlocking the happiness of Shanxi, there with the Communist Party secretary.
The truth of the matter was that we walked through the village area and we came upon this fellow who was doing TikTok videos.
So here I Baidu the 3 sources of news from Chinese mainstream medias. The first one is Xinlang Kandian from Sina.com, the biggest news website of China. Second one is from Sohu.com, a top news website as Sina.com. The third one is the original source of this news, which comes from ShanxiChinaWest.com. Both of them have the same title called 大盆地头搞直播，春之书当网红. Translated to English is streaming from greenhouse to farmland, party secretary becoming internet celebrity. Then let's having a look at this sentence. 年高60多岁的村党支部书记史安民更是带头登台，亲自带领群众网红于每晚7点到9点通过抖音网络直播平台销售黄瓜、芹菜、西红柿、辣椒。Translated to English is 60 years old village branch Communist Party Secretary Shi Anming takes the leadership of the people to stream from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day on Douyin, TikTok Chinese version, and other streaming platform to sell cucumber, lettuce, tomato, and spicy chili, so and so.
So, of course, another video has to come out where he all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I'm so glad that people have pointed out that he was government. And he still tried to pretend it was a spontaneous interaction, that they were just there and this random villager came out and said, hey, come see what I'm doing. And they dance with vegetables. So he makes this thing where he goes into the history of this guy and his name. He finally decided to look the guy up and find out what he was called, his actual name, which, you know, it's about time. And then he memorized a line that this guy once said in Chinese and tried his absolute best to say it, to kind of pretend that he can speak Chinese, because he can't. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but it's a diversionary tactic. It's very lame. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that in there. I mean, I don't want to insult the guy. I really, Matt, if you're watching this, I from the very beginning have been sending you private messages and stuff telling you you are working with the government. You have ignored me every step of the way. You've tried to deflect it the whole time. You've brought the attention to yourself by making these stupid videos where you try to excuse this behavior, where you try to pretend as if I'm negatively affecting other people, which I'm not. I'm not negatively affecting anyone. I never said that the people at ADVChina are terrible people. I didn't ever say that this guy, what he's doing, or him, is a terrible person. I simply pointed out the fact that these are government organizations that you're working for, and you should be careful because that can really sully your reputation. If people think that all your videos are state-backed fluff pieces, they're going to not care anymore. You know, from genuine travel videos to crappy advertising for an authoritarian regime. It's not a good look. So anyway, it is right there, a Communist Party secretary. Again, Uncle China Mikey, a Chinese person, he takes umbrage with this because why is Matt lying about this? Why is he going out of his way to try and pretend that the facts aren't true? You see, what these guys are doing, as much as they think they're helping China, it actually hurts a lot of Chinese people. I mean, number one, you can see that someone like China Uncle Mikey, he's upset. He's upset because he also loves his country. He also wants to travel around for free like these guys do and go to all these places. But him as a Chinese person, simply because he doesn't have a white face, he doesn't get to do it. These guys who are really, in the big scheme of things, very small YouTubers and don't actually have a lot of clout, especially when they started doing all these things, they've grown exponentially, but they get the opportunity to be staying in 5-star hotels and being flown around to try all the local dishes and go and see all these performances and stuff. But local Chinese people can't. It's insulting to people like him. It's also insulting to the intelligence of Chinese people when they go out and say, oh, these guys aren't government, you know, this guy's just a random person we came across, this poor little girl who started her own company. It's nonsense. What you're trying to do is personalize and try to create some kind of a sympathy thing where it makes anyone who criticizes the fact that you're working with the government look bad, as if they're trying to affect other people's lives through collateral damage or something. But that's not true. It's simply people saying, hey, you're doing X, Y, Z, and you can't refute that. So you have to come up with a bunch of bullshit to try and throw them off track. It's misdirection. And it's either because you're so dumb that you don't understand how the Chinese government works, and you're that naive, and your understanding of China is that bad that people shouldn't be watching your videos in the first place to learn about China if you don't know the simple basics of how the government and stuff works, or you are being incredibly disingenuous and on purpose misdirecting people away from the fact that you've been working with the Chinese government. Anyway, that's enough about my friend Jayo. We've got to move on to the Barretts, because they're actually the main focus of the article. I mean, again, it's an article about British YouTubers, but of course Jayo has to jump in and claim it's an attack against himself, even though he's only briefly mentioned in the video clip that they used on their website, the kind of attracting video clip for the article. He's not in the actual article himself. But again, it's all about him. His ego's dented, so he had to make a video all about that too.
Unfortunately, this one is going to be another explainer.
Enough of Jayo, let's move on to the Barretts. Now, the Barrett channel is made up of the older Lee Barrett and the younger Ollie Barrett. I actually have nothing against Ollie. He's young. He's 23 or something like that. When I got to China, I was 25. He's only been there a year. All right, the guy doesn't have a clue. He's having the time of his life. It's the honeymoon period. I understand. I was there, like I said. The girls, the booze, the lifestyle, the freedoms that you see around you, you know, it's such a change and such a difference from dull old England that I understand how much you fall in love with it. But you have to understand that it's just like when a man is in love with a woman and she could do no wrong, even if she's a horrible, terrible person kicking dogs and stuff, you're still like, oh, she's so amazing, she's so wonderful, what a beautiful girl. That's the stage you're in. It's called the honeymoon phase. That does wear out, mate. Once you get to the point where you can start to actually see the real problems around you, you're going to kick yourself for making such a tosser out of yourself, going out there praising this horrible regime that's doing some very, very horrible things. And I know you know that that stuff exists, but it's very difficult for you to acknowledge it, because if you were to acknowledge it on your channel specifically, it would jeopardize your lifestyle that you're having right now, this amazing lifestyle. And I get that. That's how I operated for a long time. So I have no blame against Ollie. I want to get that out the way. He's in Huawei commercials. He's being flown around doing all this fancy stuff. Feels like a rock star. I understand that. So again, he's young. But the older Barrett is a bellend. He really knows what's going on, and he's profiting from it. The older Barrett, unfortunately, has little to no understanding of China because he can't speak a lick of Chinese. He doesn't even like Chinese food, which is admitted in his videos. He's really not the right person you should be going to for any kind of expert insight into China or the Chinese culture or anything China related. But the guy just puts out this very bitter, horrible sort of propaganda stuff against the West and this praise for China, the CCP. Now he's being caught out because now they're in a major publication in the UK. And like I said in the beginning, although there are some misunderstandings in that article, the fact of the matter remains is that they are paid by the government and by government-linked organizations. All of their videos, they're sponsored by Chinese products too. They've got a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, and it's all tied back to the Chinese government and being favorable in the eye of China and Chinese people, because if they fall foul of that, they lose their product sponsorships, they potentially get shut down, they could be deported, and then what would they have? They would lose this empire of, you know, making money off of the nationalism of Chinese people. It would go away. There is just a little problem with that, is that I think you've lost touch with how the rest of the world is currently feeling about China. You can praise China all you want, but you have to realize that a lot of misery and crap that's happening around the world is the result of the way the Chinese government dealt with the virus in the beginning. The fact that there are concentration camps in Xinjiang, which you defend to say that it's good, you know, it helps these young Uyghur people get skills, that is incredibly immoral. I hope you understand just how bad the words coming out of your mouth are. It's the same as someone defending Nazi Germany during the time just before the war. It is that bad. I hope you can see the parallels that are being drawn here. You have no experience dealing with what's going on in Xinjiang. I've spoken to activists. Simok's recent video, you should take a look, where he speaks to an activist about what's going on there. You're defending cultural genocide. You're defending an authoritarian government putting the boot heel down on people. You're defending some awful shit. And so when people see that, they are appalled, first of all, especially since you're British. You should know a little better, considering the war wasn't that long ago. I understand that you're drunk on the power that you have right now, all the attention that you get, these free trips that send you all over. I know you guys just recently went to Beijing, and you know, you've got lots of these videos coming out, all the attention you're getting, all the sponsorships you're getting, all the donations that you get. I understand why you are motivated to make these kind of videos, but you also have to understand just how reprehensible that is to the rest of the world. A lot of the things you say are without thought or without any kind of balancing argument. It's just CCP propaganda that you are parroting. And that is why a newspaper like The Times would make an article, which I believe is ratified to make an article about you, saying that you are doing and are funded by the CCP and are making propaganda for them. I still don't think those two things are particularly tied together, but tangentially they are, because you still make the majority of your income from the fact that you rag on the West and praise China. This is a big topic, guys, and I could go into it a lot deeper. I'm going to leave it at this, though. And what I would like you to take away from this is, honestly, I don't want hatred towards these people, but I want you to understand where they're coming from. I want you to understand that what they're putting out there is not genuine. It is linked to the government. It is linked to this whole movement. All their trips, all their cultural things that they're all of a sudden showing on their channels, it's not real, guys. It's just advertising for the Chinese government. I hope you realize this, so at least you can go into this educated. And at the end of the day, unlike people who are willing to sell their souls and morals for money and to an authoritarian regime, stay awesome. China calling. China calling.